Hey, Shalom, Malcolm, Shalom. First and foremost, as always, I want to give all praise, all honor, and all glory unto Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rachakudash. I would like to give double honors to the apostles, the bishops, and the elders of Great Millstone that taught us this truth and that's still teaching this truth, and much peace, love, and salutation to the elect, beginning with the 144,000, all the way down to the large multitude that believes, and who the Lord will deliver in these last days. To you all I say Shalom. I'm the brother Tazamah from the Great Millstone Dallas camp, coming back today with another lesson. And I pray this lesson will be edifying to the elect. And the lesson that I want to go into is this article that you see here from Reuters.com. And it says, U.S. added firing squads, electrocution, and gassing to federal execution methods. All right, and these federal execution methods, you know, the firing squads, and, you know, I wouldn't be surprised, you know, if there's going to be, you know, guillotines added to that. I know that Elder Apostle Kabar had did a lesson years ago going into how they ordered a certain number of guillotines. I want to say they got them from China, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember exactly where they received the guillotines from, but they did order a lot of guillotines, you know, for beheadings as well too. You know, they have you know, they ordered mass caskets pretty much, whereas they can fill they're like little not little, but they're plastic containers or bins where they can fill up to 8 to 10 bodies, you know, because ultimately what's getting ready to come down the pipe here in America, you know, is you know, leading into this new world order and leading into this this digital system, whereas you're going to have to be forced into this new system, and it will be by the threat of death. All right, remember the apostles, you know, all the apostles, you know, that followed Yahweh Shai, they all were put to death, you know, except John the Revelator, you know, which John the Revelator, he was served in captivity, you know, in pretty much a sentence on the island of Patmos, you know, but all the other apostles, you know, were put to death, you know, and some of them, you know, and some of us are going to have to undergo that the method of being beheaded. You know, the scriptures talk about it, which, for example, when you get in Revelation, the 20th chapter, there's a few of them, but we'll get Revelation chapter 20. All right, this is Revelation 20, and verse 4, it says, "And I saw thrones, and they sat upon them, and judgment was given unto them. And I saw the souls of them that were beheaded for the witness of Yahweh Shai." All right, for the test. So there's going to be individuals that are going to be beheaded for the testimony of Yahweh Shai. And what's the testimony of Yahweh Shai? It's the spirit of prophecy. So those of us that are out here on the highways and hedges and, you know, and doing this work, you know, doing these videos, prophesying and preaching, you know, we're under the threat of actually you know, we're under the threat, I'd rather say, of, you know, being beheaded. You know, we're under the threat of actually being put to death. It may be by beheading, it may be by, you know, a firing squad, but, you know, we're not to fear any of these things. You know, the scripture says, be faithful unto death, and Yahweh B'Shem Yahweh Shai will give you a crown of life. And we understand and we know through the spirit that death is not, you know, final. You know, matter of fact, we'll finish this up, and then we'll get one more, we'll get another precept that just came to my mind in Wisdom of Solomon, the 3rd chapter. All right, it says, "And I saw the souls of them that were beheaded for the witness of Yahweh Shai, and for the word of Yahweh, and which had not worshipped the beast, neither his image, neither had received his mark upon their foreheads or in their hands." You see that? So it's going to be a punishment if you don't receive the mark of the beast. Now you're going to have individuals that are going to try to go off the grid and things of that nature, but there will be a law that will be passed, whereas you will be punishable. It will be punishable unto death. All right, if you don't receive the MOTB, which is the RFID microchip. And this is why, you know, they're adding a lot of these different execution methods, you know, whereas a lot of people could get destroyed, for lack of better words, in a very, very quick sense. It says, "And they lived and reigned with Hamashiach 1,000 years." But the point is that there was spirits, you know, that the Lord has set up that's, you know, going to be it's going to be a testimony unto those, you know, their death, I rather say, is going to be a testimony to the believers. All right, I quoted it earlier. Let's actually read this first. Psalm 34 verse 19. It says, "Many are the afflictions of the righteous." You see, so the scriptures talk about how the righteous are going to undergo afflictions. You know, the righteous are going to undergo, trials and tribulations, but it's ultimately a test. It says, but Yahweh delivereth him out of them all. Excuse me, let me read that last part again. But Yahweh delivereth him out of them all. You see that? So Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai, all right, will deliver the righteous out of the afflictions that come. And once again, death isn't the end all be all. You know, the scriptures talk about how, here we have an earthly body. As a matter of fact, before I get that, let me get what I said first. There's a lot of precepts coming to mind as I'm doing this. Wisdom of Solomon, the 3rd chapter, verse 1. It says, but the souls of the righteous are in the hand of Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, and there shall no torment touch them. In the sight of the unwise, they seemed to die. You see that? So in the sight of the unwise and those that are actually looking for us to die and be put to death, it's going to look as if we just got destroyed. And that's just going to be it. But Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai is going to lift up a standard. See, the prophets, even in the ancient world, whenever persecution came, if you think about the time when Nero, persecuted the followers of Yahushai, you had individuals that were being thrown into lions, coliseums with hungry lions that didn't eat for days. They were pretty much casted out in the coliseum with particular individuals like the gladiators and things of that nature being turned into torches. You have a Roman general or a emperor, and there will be a jake burning on a pole, and that'll be their lamp. That's where you get the term a Roman candle from. You see, so there was a great persecution, upon the followers of Yahushua back then, and we understand and know in the reincarnation who's in office now, which is Emperor Nero, which is Donald J. Trump. That's Nero coming back. Okay. It says, in the sight of the unwise, they seem to die, and their departure is taken for misery, and they're going from us to be and they're going from us to be utter destruction, but they are in peace. You see that? We're ultimately in peace at that point, because the scriptures talk about how, all right, those who die in the Lord, or I'd rather say those who are alive, and remain are not going to prevent those who are asleep, meaning those who have died in the Lord. You see, if you die in the Lord, the scripture, the Apostle Paul said to die is gain. Now in the flesh, you think about it like, just being in the flesh, you can think about it like in your mind, like, damn, you know what I'm saying? But in the spirit, we understand and we know that that's not the end all be all, man. We understand and we understand and we know that there's a resurrection to come. Okay. It says, and having been a little chastised, they shall be greatly rewarded. You see, be thou faithful unto death, and the Lord shall fight for thee. Strive for the truth unto death, right? Strive for the truth unto death, and the Lord shall fight for thee. What's that? Sirach 4:28, if I'm not mistaken. It says, for the Most High proved them and found them worthy for Himself. You see, so we're going to be tried. Okay, we will be tried. All right. So let's take a listen to this article. Hopefully it doesn't have an echo, but we'll see. Okay, I can't even listen to it. It's all good. Well, let me just try to refresh it real quick and see. Yeah, I can't listen to it, but it's okay. It says U.S. adding firing squads, electrocution, and gassing to federal execution methods. It says Justice Department. Oh, wow. Ain't that something? U.S. is bringing back firing squad, electrocution, gassing to federal. God dang. Satan. Let me see if I can read it from here. But listen, yes, let's listen to it. Hopefully, it has an AI playback.
This AI playback is powered by Chrome.
The U.S. Justice Department is making a significant shift in how it handles capital punishment by reintroducing older execution methods.
Right. According to reporting by Ricky Scaparo, the federal government is reviving...
The AI playback is powered by Chrome.
The U.S. Justice Department...
The AI playback is powered by Chrome. The AI playback is powered by Chrome.
The U.S. Justice Department is making a significant shift in how it handles capital punishment by reintroducing older execution methods.
Right. According to reporting by Ricky Scaparo, the federal government is reviving firing squads, electrocution, and gas asphyxiation. This follows a persistent struggle to secure the drugs needed for lethal injections. The Justice Department is essentially broadening its protocol to ensure executions can proceed even if specific pharmaceuticals are unavailable.
This seems to be a major reversal of the previous administration's stance. How is the current leadership justifying such a drastic expansion of methods?
Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche has authorized these changes to streamline death penalty cases and lift the previous moratorium. The new protocol now includes nitrogen gas asphyxiation, a method first utilized by Alabama just last year. It reflects a trend where the federal government adopts methods already authorized in various states to avoid legal or supply delays.
There are only a few people left on federal death row. Does this policy change affect them immediately?
Only 3 inmates remain after dozens of sentences were commuted recently. They include those responsible for the Boston Marathon bombing and the Tree of Life synagogue shooting. While no dates are set, these updated protocols ensure the department is ready for lawful executions once legal challenges are addressed.
They're going to use these execution methods and many others as well too. Like I said, this is just a few of many that they plan on using. All right, for capital punishment, especially when these draconian measures and these draconian laws get passed down the pipe as well too. Once again, when it comes down to not receiving the MOTB, and not worshiping the beast, neither the image nor receiving the mark, it will be punishable unto death. But once again, death is not the end all be all. All right, but this devil knows, like as the scripture says, that that the devil shall come down with great wrath, because he knows that he hath but a short time. Esau knows that his time is short, and he knows that he needs to take out, a lot of people in great number, which he's going to do. It's really going to be the anger of the Lord, because remember the scripture says, deliver my soul from the wicked, which is thy sword. So a lot of people will be taken out, by way of famine, pestilence and disease, which, these things are created in labs today. But once again, it's Yahweh Bashmal Shah is placing it on the minds, of these devils to do that. But these execution methods, whether it be firing squads, electrocution, gassing, and bringing back these old methods, once again, one of those methods is going to be the guillotine as well too, getting your head cut off, because it's written. So I just want to report on this. Lord willing, this is edifying to the elect of Yahweh Bashmal Shai. Once again, I want to give all praise, all honor, and all glory unto Yahweh Bahasham Yahweh Shai Bahasham Rachakodash. Double honors to the apostles, bishops, and elders of Great Millstone who taught us his truth and that's what teaching his truth. And much peace, love, and salutation to the elect. Until next time, I say shalom.